You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network. Now the largest new media platform on the web and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's The Killing After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's The Killing After Show.
Welcome, everybody. Bing is for doing. We're here doing episode 3. Can you believe it already? Of season 3, of course, called 17. A lot of numbers right there. Obviously, title derived from the number of bodies found in the pond. I like where we basically pick up where we left off from last episode, and we're off to the races. I am your host, Phil Svitek, joined alongside.
Hello, Phil. Hello, everyone. I am Marisa Serafini.
Welcome, Marisa, to the podcast, and welcome fans back as well. I know you guys enjoyed our last week's podcast, so thank you very much for that. Continue right in and all that fun stuff. But let's get into tonight's episode, and we won't pick exactly up where we left off. Let's start with Seward, because he obviously tied into the story, but a little bit less related. And I'm sure the connection's obviously coming, but he doesn't get to interact like Lyndon and Holder do. Let's talk about what a menace in prison he really is. I like the tit for tat between him and Becker is turning out really well, and obviously it's amplified with what happens at the end of everything. But
I agree. Seward's story about the whole riot, the Creek riot that he had, that was a little disturbing, and just goes to show that Seward has a really dark past. As we know, he has a very dark present and an upsetting future ahead of him, being subjected to being executed and all. But I did like this interaction with his prisoner, the fellow prisoner, and it just... I kind of got a little bit of a comic relief out of the storyline, even though it was very dark. It was kind of the lighter side of this episode.
So you liked the part about in the shower, and what's great is that without even knowing it, the guy's kind of becoming a distraction to the whole thing because in terms of how they're doing it, Becker and him, it's they're blow for blow kind of attacking each other's families, and as stupid as it was. He's like, hey, what's the A for? A's always are the best sex. Annie, Amy, Allison. He just keeps going down the list. But eventually, Becker reveals that it's, in fact, Adrian, the son.
Yes, his son. That starts with an A. And then also, with his tattoo, he has certain numbers, 6, 5, 3. I'm still trying to figure out the significance of those numbers and what they mean. Did we find that out yet?
Not
or
yet.
They have a deeper meaning that we'll eventually figure out?
Not quite yet. In terms of the story, again, I think here's the tough part. If Seward's really innocent in all of this, he's certainly become quite a killer, or has the instincts of one, because he knows how to read people really, really well. Going back to that riot story, the way he told it, he knew Becker was going to react in the same way. And what I'm still unclear about is exactly what he's doing. Obviously, he has the razor, but at that point, they made it look like he was going to attack Becker, but Becker got lucky.
Oh yeah, he definitely got lucky. I kind of knew it. He might have some self-mutilation with that blade. Once we saw it was revealed in that soap bar, I was like, he's going to do something to it. Probably self-inflicted, so he can probably move to another location. Like I said last episode, I think he's going to try some plot scheme to try to move himself for this bigger chess game that he's playing. But the thing about what was I going to say? The thing about him talking to the prisoner was I thought it was interesting how Seward, you can see his mental thought train. He may be a killer, yes, and we saw him kill that chaplain last week, but his mental thought game and his mindset, he's so dark, and he's a killer, but I don't believe that he killed the hooker for the reason why he's there in the first place. I still don't think he did.
Well, that's certainly in keeping with what Lyndon's kind of thinking about. It's interesting going back to the last episode, if you want to call it that, even though it's technically two. When he spoke of, with Lyndon, hey, bring Skinner in here because I want to show him what courage is, when I get hanged. And to self-mutilate yourself in that way, despite what, it seems like there's a master plan, but if there isn't, regardless, that shows courage.
Yeah,
in a different way. I don't think go home and try that.
It would take a lot to self-inflict that on yourself. I mean, that pain threshold, I couldn't handle it.
Obviously he did it to the point where he passed out. I don't think he's faking. I think he understands what he's getting himself into. And obviously we don't quite know what it's there for. The connection is developing, but we don't quite know. And in terms of his son, we obviously got another glimpse of him, and the fact that he wants to see his dad. It's interesting in its own, and I like how it has Lyndon's wheels turning on that.
And I think there was a good question that was asked, like, if you knew your father was a killer and you saw the murder and whatnot, would you still want to talk to your father despite that?
Well, what's the answer?
I would probably still want to talk to my father, just to, see why he did it, if he back it up with any rationale, or what his purpose was in doing it, and like it was self-defense or something. But I just wanted to find out, I would want to find out the reason why he killed.
Well, Lyndon's point seems to be that she doesn't think that he killed him because of that reason. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing. It didn't take long for Lyndon to get back into the task force.
No, and you knew that was going to happen.
Well, what's interesting, as we I'm sure as we continue talking about this season, meaning in future episodes, we'll be talking about Lyndon and Holder more as a unit. But right now it's interesting as, even they're kind of going at it, they're kind of going their separate ways and then reconnecting, but still kind of withholding information from each other to an extent. And not to get into predictions, but I think by having seen Callie in the video from Goldie's videos, his amazing video collection, I think that's now going to be the true start of their togetherness.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that they're both working on the same case, but they're working on different aspects. Like Holder's working on the current people who are missing, the current girls, and then Lyndon's working on the dead girls who, we're trying to find more information about the bodies to see if we can, get that information, if there's any connections to the girls who are still missing and alive.
Yeah. And you know what? It's kind of interesting. That's actually perhaps inadvertently a good point in terms of, how Holder in itself, he's more worried about preserving life, whereas Lyndon is much more about, getting the truth out of it, regardless whether or not it's a necessity. I mean, obviously it's her job, but just, again, the fact that if you can save a life, why not do that versus, these people are already dead.
Yeah, there are lost causes.
Yeah, and again, I say that with kind of a grain of salt and perhaps not in the best structure, but remember that was a big point of contention last 2 seasons, with her family life, and obviously we got the son in last episode very briefly, but, I think to an extent we could see that perhaps come back in some sort of light with her. But you know what? She was spot on, as according to the, quote, anonymous tip.
Yeah.
She's somewhat offended by that, but that's, and what's fun is, it's fun seeing her and Skinner's dynamic together. Yeah,
and apparently they used to hook up.
Well, we knew that last last episode. Well, I guess we knew they hooked up at least once.
Yeah.
Now we know that
got
they did it continually.
Got confirmation.
So it's interesting to see kind of the differences between Holder and what they had going, and then this, and obviously this is a lot more meaningful for Lyndon, ultimately.
That could have been another reason why Linda wanted to be in the force, just to, get back with people that she used to work with, and she already has that camaraderie already established between her workers or her coworkers, and also going back to the fact of the anonymous tip and how she was slightly offended, be like, no, that was me, and maybe she just wants to get fully back into the force because she wants that credit.
I think it's that, and I think I guess you're right in the credit sense. I mean, I also think she just knows no other way. She doesn't know what else to do. It's just there was a lot of blood references from all people, but for her, I don't know if it's in her blood necessarily, but it certainly seems to be the only path that she knows how to do. Is just solving these mysteries.
Yeah, it's what she's good at.
And obviously this one is from the past that's been kind of unresolved, at least in her mind, and so now it's time to figure it out.
And plus, she worked on the previous case with Seward, and so she's one of the only few people who is involved with both cases.
Yeah.
So she's one of the only people that could actually help. And
you know what? She did have a talk with the mother, which I thought the talk was great. Kaylee's mom. Officer, whatever, actually detective, homicide.
Yeah, that was great.
So it's, not that the mother's not necessarily a big character, but I want to see kind of her reaction to all of this because, that's a strong dig at her, because now the mother must be worried, like, hey, is she dead? So it'll be interesting how that plays out.
Agreed.
With the mother.
So hopefully it lights a fire under her butt to actually start caring about her daughter.
Well, that's why she's in that first. I mean,
yeah.
The mother. I've never been able to take care of her. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole separate story. But slowly but surely, Lyndon's making the connections back to the Seward case. With the autopsy, I think with the sawed-off fingers, that's a strong
broken finger. Yeah.
No, they were sawed off with the same weapon.
The dead girls were.
Yeah, the dead girls. They were sawed off with the same weapon that was used for killing them.
And there was also the interesting fact that all these girls, they were in the red biohazard grade bags, which makes me think this killer was probably part of some medical, was involved in medicine and whatnot, had access to hospitals or some clinic or something. He probably was someone who worked in the medical field, but maybe got kicked out or something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's going to be interesting is seeing how much of this gets put on the shoulders of Adrian, and how much he because obviously he remembers the place, he remembers the factory, and so, interestingly enough, this kid's going to have a lot of the truth, should he choose to reveal it. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And also the thing about we've also found more information about the dead girls that all of them were dumped 6 months apart.
I know, so it's interesting. In that respect, is this the resurgence? Did they put the right guy away in jail for the past murders? So there's a lot of questions needing answering.
And it's very much the same MO as a serial killer.
You know what? Speaking of that, going back to Skinner's speech, what I liked about it was debunking the myths of what's now become kind of fictionalized, cop dramas, right? Whether TV or movies, where listen, you're not going to get any symbols. It's not going to be anything like that. There's no rubber masks and costumes. This guy's just killing off girls that nobody gives a crap about. So whatever notion. So it's basically what obviously I think it's preparing the audience of what is to come in terms of the story. So I think it's a very meta speech. It's designed for obviously the cops in the room, but more so for the audience of hey, this is what you're gonna expect for the season.
Exactly. They've set the pace that a girl is missing, and another girl might be missing, or will go missing in the future if we don't stop this killer now. So very serial buddy like, don't you think?
Well, Serial Buddies, Adventures of Serial Buddies is a movie done here by a lot of the AfterBuzzers. For those of you know, John Comerford, myself, Ian Kaiser, Marissa gave opinions towards the end, Kathy Kelly, and then of course Kevin Undergaro and Maria Menounos, who produced the movie. Kevin wrote and directed it. It's out now on iTunes and available for download on serialbuddies.com. It's at a cheap price now, because we wanted to make it affordable for all fans to go see. So if you love AfterBuzz, go ahead and support Adventures of Serial Buddies. It's the first serial killer comedy of all time. So it's it's lighthearted. It's not nice balance between watching The Killing and that. And it's got Artie Lang, it's got Henry Winkler, it's got Kathy Lee Gifford, Christopher Lloyd, Christopher McDonald, Beth Bears, and it's an amazing movie. And again, it 100% supports this network. So please go check it out. Tell a friend. Spread the good word. And let us know. Let us know what you guys thought of it.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's very lighthearted side of Killing. So,
if you think Seward has a plan, these guys are completely opposite. It's it's about basically these two guys, and they have no plan whatsoever.
Nope.
They're just complete idiots. Dumb and Dumber meets Dexter is what critics are calling it.
in for a good laugh.
And for a good laugh. So once again, Adventures of Serial Buddies out now on iTunes. Adventures of Serial Buddies. So back to The Killing. So let's talk about Holder. He's partly on the stakeout. Last week you couldn't get him further away from Bullet. Now, he's basically seeking out all of Bullet's advice and kind of and it's tough if all these kids just kind of cooperated with the cops. It would be and obviously they're scared of their various reasons, but I think. If Bullet really cooperated, they could help solve this case a lot faster.
Agreed, because all these kids that we see on the streets here, but they know how to try to protect themselves. Like when Linda went to go ask that one girl, for information on Callie, the girl, was asking for cigarettes. They know how to barter, how to survive on the streets. So they're really just taking care of themselves. And Bullet, I think that's just that defense mechanism that's been instilled upon her for all the years that she's been on the streets. So, I think it will take time, but she will eventually warm up.
Well, partly, the biggest thing is that there's a mistrust. I mean, she told him something in confidence, and, their deal was, okay, he's going to be put away. And now, especially after the events that happened last episode, how she, that trust is broken completely when she sees that guy just in his house.
Yeah. Oh goodness, that was slightly disturbing, and I feel so bad for Bullet because you also see her, taking off her shirt and she's all bruised. She got messed up bad, physically and mentally.
Yeah, and And the one friend that she has, they obviously can't find, and it's interesting with the other girl, who she loves, and let's talk about this. Now that I'm on that, let's talk about her for a moment when she's with Joe, and that's how she really finds out that cops found bodies, and she really tries to confide in I'm gonna call him Model LA Man because he's so effing amazing. But he's just sleeping, not caring about anything.
Yeah, I don't think he said a word in this episode. He was just sleeping there. But Lyric, she's a questionable one too. I think something might happen to her.
I think so, and it's unfortunate the fact that again, they're all kind of seeking something, and Lyric's immediate goal now is, I got to get out of here if people are getting killed.
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think that's Bullet's thoughts in any respect, but I think, now more so than ever, forget the love aspect of it, Bullet and Lyric need each other because they're pretty much on the same wavelength, whereas, the other two people, they're certainly not. And, but the problem is that Lyric's very impressionable. As they said, hey, let's check out the graves. They go back to the pond, and there they are. And again, had it not been for Lyric, Bullet would not have gone either.
No, and I think that was actually a good thing for both of them because that was more of a bonding experience. They're all in this together, and they do realize that they have to stick together in order to survive. They're not alone. That they have to stay together for Callie.
Correct, you are. So, we got that tonight. Let's talk about Holder specifically. Again, I can't say enough how much I kind of love him in this new, not necessarily a new role, but as a new man.
I agree.
I love his line about, hey, Redrick went home to get his beauty sleep, but I already have that, so I don't need to. And I think in terms of the storyline, what I love the most about that specifically for me is how much he's learning about Lyndon. That he, as much as they spent time together and they kind of got to know each other, how much he does not know about her still.
Yeah, and that's true because we've seen in the previous seasons that Lyndon's a fairly private person. She doesn't really open up. She doesn't get emotional when it comes to coworkers and whatnot. It's very rare to see her at vulnerable moments, but eventually it does happen. And you can see the only really interaction that Lyndon and Holder have, it's strictly all business. It's nothing really personal. It's all business. So I think the more that we see Lyndon and Holder together this season, the more we'll see them caring about each other on their personal aspects and personal lives as well as business.
Very good point. Very, very good point. Let's see what else is kind of left. I mean, again, now we're kind of starting to see the pieces kind of coming together. I'm interested to kind of. I like their interactions most with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked how the kind of they stayed wherever it was under the bridge or something like that, and they caught the guy and it was like, whoa, she said she's 18.
Yeah.
Again, in terms of, I like those little moments, and I think it's interesting bringing in so many kids and because of the fear factor based on all of them. All of these guys are, obviously in very hard times. They're so young that they don't even know what necessarily life is, and yet they've been dealt this hardship, and now they got to make money in one of the most degrading ways, and so the fact that they're really wanting the help from the cops have never really given it to them.
No, and I do like the fact that we have young adults now as characters because once we see investigations and interrogations from the police that yes, these people are still young, but they have to talk to them like adults, and that's an interesting thing that we didn't get to see in the previous seasons because the youngest people were kids, and you can't really get a lot of information out of kids usually. So we have an older perspective to grab from, but because you still got to treat them like adults.
Yeah, and in terms of the investigation, the goal is obviously to match the porn tapes with some of the dead bodies or whatever, and I love the guy y'all want to see this, and there's our girl.
Yep, there's Callie.
And left us with a lot of mystery in terms of we had that kind of developing. We had Seward who just passes out, and then Code Blue.
Code Blue.
And then we have the kids at the pond.
Yeah.
So, you want to get into predictions?
Let's do it.
Here we go.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
I don't know what to predict. I mean, things. Episode 4 next week. We've got 12 episodes total. So where we're gonna go? I mean, I really, I think it's going to take a little bit more time for all of these things to start making full sense, as always. But I am excited for more of a unity between Holder and Lyndon.
All right. I'm going to predict that there's actually more dead bodies than we think. Right now, we know there's 17, and they're all in this one dump area. But I think there might be another dump space that we haven't seen, because usually with serial killers, they stick to one area, but sometimes they have to stray off their normal ways and dump bodies in other locations. So I think more bodies might come up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and I'm gonna be sad to see. I really hope Lyric or any one of them doesn't become a victim. It's gonna be interesting. I think her boyfriend somehow tied into some of these things, or at the very least, when the time comes, he will betray her. And hopefully Bullet will be at that point to save her.
Yeah, hopefully. And I think Bullet will definitely come around. Yeah, after being raped and whatnot. Like, she needs someone in her life because Callie's gone. She's bonding with Lyric more, and she's getting more closer to Holders, so she will definitely come around.
Well, very good. So, guys, let us know what you guys think. We love hearing your guys' opinions. I think it's been a really good season thus far. I know we're only 3 episodes in, but if you kind of look at it, we're a fourth of the way.
Yeah, in the storyline, they said 4 days ago, so 3 episodes have only covered 4 days, so we will find things relatively soon.
And I hate Goldie. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with him.
Hopefully he gets justice.
Well, yes. Hope the world gets justice against him.
Yes.
Because, anytime someone says, hey, I got to call my lawyer, at that point, like, you've stumbled upon something. Anyway, in the meantime, feel free to follow us here at AfterBuzz TV. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. Where can they find you, Marissa?
You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Serafini TV.
And check her out on Hemlock Grove or Rookie Blue and other fun shows here at AfterBuzz TV. And if you're a newcomer to AfterBuzz TV, I'm sure there's another show that we cover that you're a fan of. But, of course, first and foremost, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts listening to us for The Killing. Good night, y'all.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.